If you have a moral disagreement with someone, you may have noticed that your disagreement sometimes is based on differing fundamental moral beliefs. Like if you keep on going deeper and deeper into the debate, trying to figure out why the other person believes what they believe, it's usually because there's a more fundamental moral belief that they hold. For example, let's say the discussion is about capital punishment, and the other person is in favor, while you're against. You ask them why they're in favor of it, and they say that some people deserve it because the crime they committed was so heinous. But you don't think they deserve it. In fact, you don't think anybody deserves it. In this case, you may think that you can't make any progress because you just fundamentally disagree. And that's why people often can't change other people's minds. But sometimes you want to convince other people, right? Or at least I do. So how do you do that? This is the way that I would approach it. First, dive deeper. What you initially think is a fundamental moral belief may not actually be fundamental. This is to say that you can often dive deeper. Take the example above. If someone says that they think some people deserve the death penalty, you can ask what determines that. Like what determines what someone deserves? Do they believe in an eye for an eye? Like, is that why? Right? If so, why? Perhaps they think it comes from some concept of fairness. If you take a life, then you lose your life. Maybe, right? The second thing that I would do is to see if our beliefs are internally consistent. Our fundamental moral beliefs inform other specific beliefs that we have, and it may be possible to get someone to change their position on a fundamental moral belief if it can be shown that the specific beliefs that it leads to are unacceptable to that person. So for instance, if you believe in an eye for an eye, does that mean that people who commit sexual assault should be sexually assaulted? If they don't think that, why? They're going to have to think through that implication, and it may be that they change their mind on what they think is fair, which then might change what they believe about punishment. This is to say that beliefs can be internally consistent or inconsistent. And since people don't want to contradict themselves, if you can point out some contradiction in their beliefs, it might lead them to change their mind. They might actually change that fundamental moral belief. So this process requires you to follow the logic of their beliefs in order to come up with counterexamples. If you believe this, then doesn't it mean that you believe that? Right? Then the other person either has to bite the bullet or change their beliefs. Biting the bullet means that they just accept the unappealing implication. Just so you know, this is often what's done at philosophy conferences. You present a paper, and then the audience tries to poke holes in it by coming up with counterexamples. There is an entire profession of people trained to come up with counterexamples, okay? In summary, when you do those two things, when you dive deeper and try to see if their beliefs are internally consistent, you can actually have an insightful and rewarding conversation with someone, assuming you do it civilly. However, there are practical limits to this because a person can simply bite the bullet, right? They can say, yep, sexual assaulters should be sexually assaulted, and that is what's fair, that is what is just. If they do that, if they bite the bullet, then you have to come up with some other counterexample to see if it would change their mind. And it's hard to come up with good counterexamples, okay? Sometimes you just can't think of any. And in those cases, you won't be able to change the other person's mind. This is part of the reason why doing philosophy is so difficult. All right, I'm going to end it here. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you all next time.